Kevin Cook, you're back. How are you, sir?
I am back. It is good to be here. It's been a while.
It has been a while. How's your summer been?
It's been great. It's
Good.
been busy, but it's been really good.
And this is the period of life where you pretend like you're working full time and off on the legislature, like you're not going back and forth from DC and like trying to bring awareness to our water. And you're like, no, boss, I'm working 100%.
It has been very, very busy this summer with the water thing.
Yeah.
Yes, we've been crazy.
I actually spoke with Representative Mike Simpson about water and water infrastructure. Nuclear is obviously on everybody's mind. Nuclear predominantly is a science that and technology that utilizes a whole bunch of water. Though there are now different types of technology that use salt and critical CO2, so they don't require water sources. But the point is, water is on everybody's mind, either for agriculture, for development, for nuclear technology and energy. Talk to me about what you're trying to do with water.
Well, before I get there, you talked about nuclear, also AI. You need water for both of those. And if you like a good steak, a potato, and a long hot shower, a cold glass of water, we need it. And we got a problem in Idaho in water. And we need to fix it. It's not something that's going to go away. It's not something we can just let's sit back and see what happens. We have seen that happening. We've got 3 years of drought. We've got 3 years of fighting, of having to negotiate, and we need to get a hold of it and get ahead of it. Now, that's not to say that people have been sitting back and not doing anything, because we've got some really, really smart people that have been working on water, but we need to plan. We need to maybe think out 50, 75 years and say, this is where we want to be in 75 years. So kind of the idea is 750K by 2100. In other words, 750,000 acre feet of water for new surface storage by the year 2100. So we start at 2100 and we start walking it back to 2025 and say, okay, there's what we got to get. So you've got some small projects, medium size, and some large projects that'll all add up to that at 750,000 acre feet of water, and that's what we need to be.
And there's obviously precedence for forward thinking. Like, just look at the Hells Canyon hydro dam. Like, the United States used to build things. Like, I think the Golden Gate Bridge got done in under 2 years. It's like an incredible industrial machine when we need and want to be. The problem is, most people are looking at a time horizon that's shorter than 24 months, because especially in Idaho, you have legislative elections every 24 months. So it's almost to bring up a large scale infrastructure issue that will benefit our grandchildren is almost a kiss of death, because people are looking at only what's going to get me reelected in like 12 months. I mean, we have primaries coming up. That's like, I probably can't let this episode drop for like another 8 months until after you get reelected. I don't know if you're running, but the point is, like, there's a real problem here. We have become a nation of more short-sighted individuals that are looking for short-term patches, just put everything together. And we've moved away from being the industrial might that we used to be, that created a future for future Americans.
I agree. You go back to, I think it was 1920 or 1940. You'll have to fact check me on that. It's one of those years. But American Falls, the city of American Falls, I don't know if you knew this, but back then they had some problems with water. And they realized that the state of Idaho had problems. And they says, you know what? This valley that we're living in would make a good reservoir. So they physically moved their city. They moved their churches, their schools, their homes, their stores. They moved it up the side of the mountain, dammed off the Snake River, and filled that whole valley where their city was with, I think it's 1.8 million acre feet of water. That's a lot of water. Now, you can't, to not have that would be devastating. We wouldn't be able, would be desert. They put that in there, though, and it has affected everything. And that's so many years ago. We need to start doing that same thing now, looking forward down there and get us a plan where we want to be by the year 2100 and get some water. If we don't, we're going to have troubles. Your aquifer is lowering. We're watering more and more acres. And that's not just sprinkling and pumping, that's surface water as well. So groundwater, surface water, I'm working with all of them saying, hey, let's get together and let's figure this out and get some reservoirs. The idea is it's not It's not one or the other. Some people say, well, we need to do recharge aquifer. And I say, yes, we do. Well, we need to build some reservoirs. Yes, we do. We need more surface water. Yes, we do. And so what I'm saying is with these reservoirs, you dam up these reservoirs, build these dams, or even if just raise the existing dams. So like Minidoka, if we were to raise that 8 feet, which we've talked about, and they've discussed it. I believe it's 50,000 acre-feet of water. We've looked at raising the Jackson Lake, the American Falls. I mean, there's several dams that we've looked at. But if we do these, it's going to allow us to recharge the aquifer longer, to extend the season. Right now, we do really good about recharging the aquifer in the spring runoff because we have all that water.
Sure.
But during the late of the summer, the fall, in the September, I think it's September 25th, I believe, or no, it might have been even in August, we started shutting off pumps, irrigation pumps. We started shutting off canals and ditches to our farmers, and they still needed that water. We shut that up because we were running out of water. You go look at American Falls, I think they're at 9% full. Palisades Reservoir, I think, is 3% full. And now we're starting to drain down the Jackson Lake. And that's what it's all built for. That's what it's built to do. But we don't have enough water. We're losing some of that spring runoff. If we could dam that up and hold that back, then we could meter that water out in the late fall, late summer, when we're starting to run out of water. We could extend irrigation season, extend our recharge aquifers efforts. And so it would be a win-win for everybody. Just it's a good thing. We need it.
You talk about projects at the small, medium, and large level. Obviously, with large infrastructure like increasing the height of dams, building new dams, rebuilding dams, these are large scale. Some would be hundreds of millions or billion-dollar projects, and that's great. Like these are absolutely things that are needed. There are also small and medium scale projects that, they have place. It's kind of like with the power argument. It's like, hey, solar and wind are great. Sun's not always shining, wind's not always blowing, but it's good to have those when they're working. Is there any federal desire to start engaging in upgrading municipality public works systems to start creating, for instance, Nampa has upgraded their public works system so that they actually, instead of having wastewater out of their public works, it gets pumped to their irrigation company. And it's like the water has been brought from waste in houses, brought to a purity and cleanliness that it can now be used as, irrigation. So they're not drawing on other water resources. Boise Public Works, amazingly, did you know they discharge 30,000 acre feet of water into the Boise River? They're figuring out a way to actually reroute that water and take it up to Micron. So as Micron and industry expands, there's a ready source of water that's not drawing on like the original sources of water, like the Boise River and things of that nature. Now, the question is obviously who owns that 30,000 acre feet if it's water getting discharged from the municipality. But the point is, these are things that are starting to patch together, like 10,000 acre feet here, 30,000 acre feet here, reusing or using additional times water that, would have been terminated after the fourth use, but finding a fifth use for it. Is there a desire, do you think, at the federal level to start getting grants or investing in those things for our local municipalities?
Absolutely. And you'll find a lot of the cities are doing that or looking at that. They have to. And in fact, last session, we passed a law talking about, can we continue to just drop pipes in the ground, wells, pumping up water and watering my 2 acres of lawn? And you might think, well, yeah, I should be able to do that. Well, what was happening is the farmer right next to him, they come out and say, sorry, you got to turn your pumps off.
Right. But the 2 acre guy is
2 acres still going. And that farmer has dumped millions of dollars of seed into the ground, and it's just getting close to harvest. And now we turn off his pump. He's lost all that money, and yet all the houses around him are doing that. So we've passed a bill where it says, okay, if you want to water your 2 acre lawn, sprinklers, great. There's no problem. But the developer that went in and developed that 100 acre lot and then divided it into all these places, they need to keep that water rights with them. and not be pumping it out of the ground. Or if they are going to pump it out of the ground, that's the water right they have. So that water right will stay with that ground. That homeowner will have that water right, and so they'll be able to do that. So there's some new stuff that's coming out. 1st of July that went into effect. There's some people that are a little upset about it, what we're doing, but we got to get our water under control. I really believe there's enough water. We just need to manage it. And I think that's what we're trying to do.
And the lawn that you're describing, that's distinct from a domestic well, because the domestic wells have no water rights. Whereas something within, like, say you buy a plot of land that's 100 acres, you subdivide it 50 times, that land came with some water right. That water right would then be divided up amongst those 50 people. So it's not this unlimited domestic well. Am I understanding that correctly?
That is correct.
Okay.
And so in the new law that we just passed, it basically says, okay, yeah, you have a well. Great. You have the right to dig a well and use that well for inside your house. But if you're going to start watering your lawn, you need a water right to do that. And that should have come with the land that the developer did. And so we're not looking backwards, but looking forward. The developer comes in and does that. He needs to make sure that that water right stays and gets subdivided to the owners.
I recently had Paul Arrington on from the Water Users, and we were talking about previous. So I'm on a domestic well, right? And he was like, look, man, half acre, irrigate, whatever you want, half acre, no sweat. But, and the penalty and punishment and enforcement for, going over, say I had an acre, it's like big lawn, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
You run your hand through it like our hair when we were young men, right? It's like the punishment for that, I think used to be like $200 a year or $50 a year, something pretty nominal. It wasn't really substantial, but now it's $500 for every 1/10 of an acre over the half acre. So if you're irrigating an acre and a half, it's a full acre over your allotment. So it's going to be a $5,000 fine. Substantial.
Yeah.
The other thing is that, in the conversation I was chatting with him, he knows more about it than I do, but I just brought up, I'm like, hey man, how hard would it be to just get 1,000 addresses that are all on registered domestic wells and pump them into some dumb AI program and have that AI program go to Zillow and just look at the satellite image of that house and have the AI program be like, hey man, these 875 people, they definitely look like they're over, a half an acre. The enforcement capacity and verification is so much easier now with drone and satellite imaging. And I thought this was like a wild and new idea. Paul's like, they're already doing it, man. I was like, I know. I'm a little slow to the take. But these are things, again, death by 1,000 cuts, as he was putting it. You might say, hey, look, you have a farmer who's trying to irrigate 500 acres. Like, what's the little house going to do? Well, maybe not that house, but maybe 1,000 houses, maybe 10,000 houses. So municipalities then, back to this, there is money and there is interest within the federal government to help support municipalities engage in new water treatment facilities or higher end water treatment facilities that allow us to get to the level of we're not saying drinking water, but water that would be used for industrial uses or for perhaps irrigation. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. In fact, we tore, let's see. It's where Senator Anthony is from. Some of those little towns down there.
I've heard his name. I can't remember where he's from either. I've never had the pleasure of having him on.
Declo, but it's not Declo that was doing it. But anyway, they do it out there. Pretty interesting how they showed us through the process that was going. But yeah, there's several cities that are looking at that, trying to do that. There are grants available, money. But it's very, very expensive. It is not something that your small cities can do without a grant, without help from the federal government.
Right. And I have the director of the public works for Middleton coming in soon. And I was asking about this initially. He and I were on a bus together going to look at things and just struck up a conversation. And one of the problems that Middleton has is that you have to have the right elevation, right? So if like your public works plant is lower in elevation or far away from like a canal that can it's like you got to start pumping the water uphill. You might have to go a couple miles. You're going to have to like bore under people's properties. Like it's a whole big train wreck. So not only is it the size of the municipality that's a consideration, but it's also the proximity to a viable outlet where it's like, okay, I can just put this water here and then it'll get distributed effectively. If you're really far away, that's a consideration as well.
Absolutely.
So there's just no silver bullet.
No. And from my high school days in physics, water still does not run uphill very well. So it takes money to start pumping that uphill and putting it around. But
which is why we need small modular reactors. But a different point. So is the municipality, so again, we have the largest, which is like reservoirs, new, expanding, whatever that might be. Is the municipality level, is that a medium level solution, or is that considered a small level solution? Like, does it go all the way down to the actual residents and citizens as far as small level solutions?
You know what? I am really trying to focus on like a laser beam.
Gotcha.
So I'm not looking at cloud seeding. I'm not looking at aquifer recharge.
Just look up
reservoirs. So
reservoirs.
But I believe you get the reservoirs, you get the groundwater, you get the surface water. It's a win-win for everybody. So I do know that the stuff is available for our municipalities, some grants and all that. We talked about that when back in the COVID days when we had all that money come into the state that we were trying to divvy out. Some of that went towards some of the water and the recirculating it and cleaning it up.
Gotcha.
But yeah, we're really looking at reservoirs, trying to do that. And yeah, with the small, medium, large. So the small ones would be like raising the existing dams. Medium ones is like up in the Henry's Fork area, Henry's Fork. They've already identified several places. You got Badger Creek, New Spring Creek, several of them that are up there. I think there's about 5 or 6 options that they've had, but they're only 20,000, 40,000 acre feet of water. Lane Lake is a new one, and it would be 101 acre feet of water. Now these are new. These are just ideas. There's no dam there. They're just a river. But they're saying these are ideal locations. So those putting in those dams would be like your medium size. It's going to cost because you're going to start from scratch. Your big one, though, would be like the Teton Dam, if we were to rebuild that. Can it be done? There's people that say absolutely no way. Some people are just emotional about it, which they certainly have a right to do. I mean, it was been 50 years ago. But it was not just something that you can just let go and think it's done. It's in the past. So there's some concerns there. The river, the walls of the canyon are porous. But as I talk with engineers, as we can fix that, no problem. We've got that. So the Teton Dam is an option. It is not the only option. It is a option, and we need to look at it and say, can we build it safe? And if we can, then let's do it. If we can't, then let's move on. Let's find something else.
Can you explain to me, and again, I'm sorry for the ignorance here, can you explain to me the big distinction in service function between the Army Corps of Engineers and the Bureau of Reclamation, right? Like, it's my understanding the Bureau of Reclamation classically was the organization that you would go to talk about building a dam, and the Army Corps of Engineers was something that would come on board when you're talking about like safety.
See, I might be ignorant here. I always thought the Bureau of Reclamation did all the studies. They purchased the land, they did it all, and then the engineers would come, Corps of Engineers would come in and say, okay, let's do it.
I guarantee you're the right one. I don't know about this at all. So the idea then would be, let's say this, keeping with the Teton Dam, the idea then would be, hey, let's get the Bureau of Reclamation to come in, get the data, talk to us about feasibility, talk to us about how we could ensure that the tragedy that happened previously never befalls Idaho again, and then sign off on, yes, it can be done, and this is exactly how you should do it, regardless of what the cost is. And if you can't finish it because it costs too much, you just can't finish it. You don't just go ahead, which was the great tragedy that befell us before. And then the Army Corps of Engineers is like, okay, got it, here we go, and then Idaho, here's the bill. So that would essentially be the chain of command?
Yeah, that's my understanding between the Bureau of Reclamation and Corps of Engineers, yeah. And that process, I believe, would be the same for every dam. So whether it was the Teton Dam or it was Badger Creek or the Lane Lake Dam, whatever, the same thing. As far as the funds, we look at, okay, most Idahoans says, we don't want the federal government involved with this. Which I understand. The more the federal government's involved, the more red tape, the more strings that are attached to it. So is there a way that we could round up the money and build it ourselves? Probably not on a great big, like the Teton Dam or some other equivalent dam. But could we do it with the smaller ones? For instance, if Idaho Power says, hey, if you put in this dam here, 40,000 acre feet, we would be interested in putting a turbine. And so we will help. But you got to guarantee us that we got 10% of that water or 20% or whatever. And so they would ante up some money. You got some private companies that would do that. For instance, the Minidoka water users, they own, I think it was 20% of the water in Jackson Lake, which happens to be in Wyoming. But so they've put up some money to help build that and maintain that. The federal government also, they've got a big shell of that, a big part of that. But as we start building of that, we would look and say, how can we team up with some private corporations, private businesses to help us to build that? Do we do some bonds? How do we, as state of Idaho, put the money up so that we can less and less involve the federal government? Now, they're still going to be involved. The Bureau of Reclamation, every dam that I know of, they were involved with it. So they're going to be involved, as you know, if it's a fairly large dam, 20,000 acre feet or something like that, they're going to be involved with it. How do we get the money, though, and keep the red tape and the strings out of there? So that's what we're trying to do. And so one of the things that we've done is try to gather signatures. So we did the Senate Joint Memorial 101 last session, which said federal agents, state agents, let's get going. Let's update our studies. Let's make it work. And then let's move forward. And that passed both the House and the Senate unanimous. But then nothing happened. And it was kind of my naiveness, thinking I'd hear cement trucks mixing cement, and bulldozers moving dirt, and it didn't happen. And I went back to Washington, D.C., and I says, guys, we passed this bill. Why aren't we moving forward? And they says, well, we need to make sure that Idaho is on board with this, which is good for them. That's what they should do. They represent Idaho. They shouldn't be jumping out in front and moving forward. So we said, okay, we're going to get some signatures. And so we're trying to get a bunch of signatures, and that's on keepidahowater.com. They can go out and sign it. They can read the petition, and we're taking that petition back November 17th and 18th. And we would love to take back 100 people with us from Idaho to go back and hand that over to our federal delegations.
When is that?
November 17th and 18th.
So you got an extra ticket?
We'd love to. Well, this is all on your own time.
I've actually never been to DC.
Oh, it is awesome. It is really good. So what we're trying to do is we've got one of the one of the senators on that Monday, the 17th, and I think we got the other three federal delegation on the Tuesday. But we're going to try and set up some special behind-the-scene tours. So those that come with us, we'll sit down and hand that signatures over and get them all excited about helping us cut through the red tape and streamlining it. And then we'll go do some behind the scenes and see what we got there in Washington, D.C. But it's an awesome place to visit. Just incredible.
If we are successful, you are successful, right? This is your initiative. If you're successful in getting this and cutting the red tape, what does that mean? Like, what speed are we talking about? What kind of ROI could people anticipate? Is this like, okay, if we got the go ahead, we could be up and saving water in 2 seasons, 2 years? Or is it like, no, it's like 10 years or 15 years?
Well, it's probably more like 10 years. Now, but there's a lot of things that are in the works that our Idaho Water Resource Board is working on. I just want us to put out a 75-year plan. Here's what we're doing. What does success look like? What my mind is we get all of these studies done in 2 to 3 years. Now, I would love to have it done, cut that in half. And we talked before is that President Trump, before we'd go out to nuclear regulation and try to get approval for us to build a reactor, and it took 20 years to get approval. President Trump said, hey, I want to cut that time down. I want it done in 1 week. And they all come back and say, that's impossible. And he says, okay, fine, 2 weeks. Well, I would like to see us do the same thing. I would love to see us 2 to 3 years to do a study to figure out if we can build something or if it's the right place to do a dam. I think we could do that quicker. We've got the capability. We've got technology. Now, 50 years ago, 60 years ago, we didn't, but right now we do. So let's speed that up and get that going. So that's the one thing that I would hope that the federal government, and I talked to Representative Simpson about this, and he says, we're working on it. We're working on trying to streamline that. I said, oh, great. The second thing is when we got that standard to come back, the studies are done, then I want to prioritize them, put them in an order, work back from the year 2100 back to 2025 and say, okay, here's all that in our order of priority and how we can afford it. Here's what we're going to do and lay out a plan. And so that would be my second thing of success. And then the third is I would love us to see in 10 years from now, 5 to 10 years, we're actually moving dirt. We're doing something. And that might not be moving dirt. That might be raising existing dams, Jackson Lake, or I think Jackson Lake, the Board of Resources says that's probably one of our biggest bang for the buck. That one and Minidoka, I think they've looked at. But those are the things that we need to go. We can't keep sitting back and saying, well, we'll get to it. We need to speed it up. We've got a great administration that's in there that will help us with that. We got some pretty key officials. Our senators and our representatives are in key positions right now that could help us move that along. And so we need to get going in the next year, 2 years, and take advantage of that and get Idaho water. Keep Idaho water here. We are filling up our reservoirs to capacity in the spring, and then we're letting all of this water go down the river out into the ocean because we don't have the capacity to hold it back. So by building the reservoirs, it will allow us to hold that back, and then it's going to allow us to use that water later in the year to do the aquifer recharge and the irrigation. So it's a win-win for everybody. And you keep going back to municipalities.
I went there once. I wouldn't say I keep going back.
Well, yeah, sorry.
I brought up municipality. I'm not like a dog with a bone, okay? I'm not stuck on it.
That's true. No, but the municipalities, I talked with the Rexburg mayor. He says, I'm concerned about water, drinking water. I'm concerned about that. We're going to need some water. BYUI continues to grow. The city continues to grow. We're seeing a huge population growth in the state of Idaho. We need to figure this out because this is not just an agricultural problem. This is a people problem as well. We need water.
Oh yeah, it's a power problem. It's a data center problem. It's an ag problem. It's a development problem. Like everyone needs water.
Yep. So I was talking to I can't remember who it was, but was talking with an individual, and he says, we're not limited on what we grow or how many cattle we have. Agriculture is not limited because of ground. I thought, okay. He says, we are limited because of water. Right now, we are limited because of water. So Idaho is feeding the nation, it's feeding the world. We could do even more if we took care of our water and managed that better.
Yeah, we just, the wheat growers signed a deal with Taiwan, I believe, recently. I have Brittany Hurst coming on soon to talk about that. But like we feed the world here.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it's not the whole world, like not everybody, but we feed a gigantic portion and we could do even better. I'm blown away that we have rainwater, just like dry land farming in North Idaho, that there's just like whenever it rains, that's when stuff will start growing. It's like, what? Yeah. And if it doesn't rain, it doesn't grow. Or if like it rains and then it freezes over with like a late spring frost, all the plants go to seed. Like it's a train wreck. Look, they're doing fine with it. It's none of my affair, but it's water is just one of those fundamental things that you just can't get around. And especially in a state like this where we have so much agricultural potential, even untapped ag potential.
Yeah.
The capturing. How much, by the way, do we lose every year that we can't store? It's something like 500,000 or 600,000 acre feet, right? And I don't want to say lose. We just fill up all our water bottles and then the faucet keeps going.
Yes. So it's between 1.4 and 2 million acre feet of water.
Oh my gosh. That's a lot.
Now, some of that, I think it's 740,000 acre feet of water. We are legally bound to flush the water down the river for our salmon.
Salmon smelt.
Yeah. But we both know, both sides of the issue know it's not working.
Well, it's working better than not doing it.
Well, but we
like
need to look
the
at
salmon's like, forget you.
But we just need to get back together and look at that and see, okay, what can we do? Because
Sure.
that's a lot of water, but there's a lot of water that's still going down the river because we don't have the capacity.
Sure. And again, to be clear, when I say it's working better than it not working, I'm not saying I know the nuances of the data around salmon smelt and salmon repopulation. I'm just, I agree with you that we need more and better data and then figure out like, okay, is the 700 the number? Is 300 the number? Yeah. Can we utilize that in some manner along the way, right? Is it that none of it can be, do we need more effective fish transport? Like, what is it that we need? Or is literally the only answer that we dump 700,000 acre feet of water? And if that's the only answer, like, okay, everybody can come to the table and either want to renegotiate or not, but like get the best possible data, relevant present data provided. And then, we go from there.
Absolutely. I'm a computer geek. I don't know salmon. I love to eat salmon, but that's where the guys, the scientists and the smart people need to look at it. But yeah, I agree. But right now, the 74,000 acre feet of water is not, or 740,000 acre feet is not. It's not helping. We need to relook at that and reanalyze that. Whether the other thing is we got maybe water in the Boise River, or the water coming out of Weiser. Does it always have to come out of southeast Idaho? And I don't believe it does. So we need to look at it and say, okay, where can we get that water to do that flush? And when we have a drought here in southeast Idaho, could we use some of the water in Weiser or out of the Boise River, or vice versa? When you guys have a drought here, okay, southeast Idaho antes up. But right now, it's my understanding it's all southeast Idaho that's putting down the 740,000 acre feet of water.
You know what we need? We need some hydrologists. I feel like there might be some unemployed hydrologists floating around that used to work for the Idaho Department of Water Resource. I don't know how it works, but somebody told me once.
I got to meet with one in Rexburg, and we talked for quite a while. They're smart people. I had no idea that we had so much knowledge about what's going on underneath the ground that we walk on, that aquifer. Amazing stuff. These guys are smart people and they're looking at it. But we do know that aquifer is going down, and we also know that recharge works. Recharge works. We know it. We can see that in our measurements that it works. And so we need to continue to recharge the aquifer.
Have you ever seen one of the injection wells?
I have.
They are so crazy.
They are.
It's like they do something like 6,000 gallons a minute or something, like insane, right? It sounds like a jet engine. That's what I was told. I'm like, what do you mean? You go up and it literally sounds like a jet engine taking off because there's a huge amount of gas exchange when you're dropping that much water. I'm like, I get so scared being around aquifer inputs, because like my biggest fear is probably drowning. I'll burn, I don't care, but drowning to me is like, and I get terrified of like getting sucked into the aquifer, like then clunked around for the next 400 years in there. It would be bad, but that's Matt's anxiety. Nobody else has to worry about that. So bottom line is, again, what's the website for the signatures?
KeepIdahoWater.com.
KeepIdahoWater.com.
So go out there, you can read the petition. And then you can sign it. And if you read the petition and you still have questions, fire off a question. You can go to kcook@senate.idaho.gov or info.keepidahowater.com. You can email that address as well, and we'll get back with you.
I understand people don't want the federal government involved in your business. I get that. But it is so involved on so many fundamental levels in Idaho. Like farm subsidies, gas, energy subsidies, both crude oil and natural, like the federal government is involved in a lot of fundamental issues in the state. And in my pathetically uninformed opinion, the solutions that Idaho is footing the bill for, or presumably would fit the bill for, aren't just Idaho solutions. These are things that, yes, benefit Idaho in the initial run of the water, but then other states benefit from them. And that's not to say that we're going to go to Washington and be like, hey, Washington, how about you fork over X number of dollars? Like, that probably wouldn't be reasonable. Washington probably wouldn't participate. So to that end, it's like, okay, if Idaho is footing the bill for at least part of the water solution for the West. Like, we are the West. If we're footing the bill for part of this, including production of power for our entire Western grid, including agriculture for the United States and the rest of the world, including storing water that then gets distributed evenly and with a functional flow down through Washington and parts of Oregon. If we are footing the bill for that, why wouldn't we look to the federal government and say, look, it's not fair to ask us to pay the whole price for a solution that the West needs?
No, I agree. There's nothing wrong with us getting some of that money. We just need to look at it closely. We need to go into it with our eyes wide open. If we get this much money from the federal government, this is what they require. Are we good with that? If we are, great. Let's move forward. Plus, you and I pay an awful lot in federal taxes. That's my money. I would like to see some of that spent back in Idaho. And so I'm not against that, but there are those that are, and that's okay. But let's make sure we know what are the strings, and if we're okay with those strings that are attached to that money that we get. Some of the large dams, there is no way the state of Idaho is going to be able to afford to do that. It's just not going to happen. And so we will need some of that federal funds to do that.
And even if Idaho could, why should Idaho foot the bill for something that's benefiting other people as substantially as it is? Now, I'm not saying we can't collaborate and do good things for the United States. Like, yeah, we're part of it. But man, like, you're looking at like $1.4 billion for the Teton Dam or something. Like, it's some astronomical sum of money. Okay, but that benefits everyone downstream.
It does. Yep.
And last I checked, we don't have coastal land. It's like that water's got to go through some other state that they can use for hydroelectric, that they can use for their own agriculture, that they can use for their own hatcheries, that they can use for their own people. Like, come on, man. Like,
we put an awful lot of water back through it. Yeah. I don't know if many people understand our water, how it works. It is fascinating to me. Mm-hmm. So we take just about all the water out of the Snake River in two different areas. Below Blackfoot, we've just about taken all the water out, and then it starts coming in through the springs. So you get down to Milner Dam, which is what, south of Twin Falls.
Okay.
And you have a north and south canal. We actually dam off the Snake River. And during the summer when we're irrigating, below the Milner Dam, the Snake River is dry. We take absolutely every drop out of the Snake River at the Milner Dam into the North Canal and the South Canal. It's gone. There's no water. The Snake River is no more. But you go down about 10 miles, water starts coming in from the sides of the mountain from our aquifer, gushing out in these springs. And it starts building up the river again. You've heard 1,000 springs.
I've been, yes.
Yeah. So that's the aquifer. And that's why we need to make sure we have a healthy aquifer, not just so that we have drinking water in our wells, but also because it's gushing out and regenerating the Snake River for everybody else downriver that's irrigating and doing the aquifer, which is Idaho. So it's amazing to me. You know, I've had people say, well, I don't know why you're complaining about water. I just drove across the Snake River in Idaho Falls against Broadway. That river is clear full. What is your problem? And I says, well, don't let looks deceive you. We have a problem. Our aquifer lower, our ground, our surface water, we don't have the water. We're turning it off. And you go to Milner Dam again. It was just fascinating to me to see all of a sudden there's no Snake River.
Dude, when that happens in the spring, when they dam it off, let's go. I want to go.
Oh, let's
awesome. Go.
Yeah.
Let's I'll take a bunch of pictures. Maybe we could do like a little video. You know what we should do? We should do a podcast from the dry Snake River bed.
Right in the middle of the bed.
In the middle of the bed, like looking up at the water, like if that thing goes, we're both dead. So let's finish this up fast. But that would be, I mean, it's a wild problem. And again, here's one for you.
Well, before you go there,
go, yeah.
Same thing is last week I was in Boise and I drove home. And before I got home, I pulled over at Twin Falls and went and looked at the Shoshone Falls. Now you're thinking the Snake River, this big, mighty Snake River with, mega water gallons going down. I go to the Shoshone Falls. There's little streams, trickless. And I took a picture of that and put it out on my social media. It says, here's what's left of the Snake River. And it was just a little waterfall, just a little bit of enough water running down to keep the falls wet. So another place where it's like, but it's building up. And Thousand Springs, that'll kick in. So anyway, sorry.
No, it's the one of the problems is time frame, right? If you take all the water right now in the aquifer and you look at the Snake River and you don't blink, I'm going to screw this up. I think it's 400 years. The water's flowing through Snake. Don't blink. That's how much water's in the aquifer. But just because it's a gigantic water bottle doesn't, and it seems full right now, betrays the reality that it's like, yeah, but if next year it's not a 400 year don't blink, it's a 390. And the next year, if it's 365, even if it goes down 1 year per year. So it's like in 100 years, they're like, nah, man, now we only have 300 years of water. Now we only have 200 years of water. You essentially get to this collision course where you're like, oh, we're dead. And by the way, along the way, not just will you be reducing the amount of water in the aquifer. So like everybody's like, yeah, if you got 10 million bucks and you're down to 9 million, I don't care. I'm aware. But that also means that all the straws that are poked down, they can't draw out anymore either. So you don't just have a water collection problem. You have a water accessibility problem that is very acute and very, present in front of mind, because unless we keep up to that roughly 400 year reserve, the straws we poke down will no longer serve us. The falls will no longer flow the same way. And that is the beginning of the end, because that's when you start having water calls, the fights over water erupt again. And then we're going to be back at the same thing with a higher cost of, well, now we still need the same reservoirs. The projects that were lowest cost and highest return are still the same. They just cost twice as much because we delayed it 10 years.
Absolutely. Yeah. They have a graph. I think it was the Bureau of Reclamation that shows the water level in the aquifer starting about 1900 or 1910 up to about 1950. The aquifer just jumped. I mean, it was crazy. It just rose and rose. The aquifer filled up. And why did that happen? That's because right in 1900, we started flood irrigating. And so we took canals and rivers out from the Snake River, and we started water in the desert, and we started raising potatoes and barley and so forth. And we had that incidental recharge. But from 1950 to today, that aquifer is drained. And one of the problem is not just that we were pumping out of the water, but incidental recharge went away. We stopped flood irrigating, we started sprinkling. And in fact, the federal government has grants. They will encourage you as a farmer to quit flood irrigating and to sprinkle. And that's good because we're a lot more conservative. I mean, those farmers can put down just exactly how much water is needed. Well, you can't do that in flood irrigation.
No.
And neither one of them is bad, but we just need to recognize, okay, here's what we've got. How do we fix it? We've had this huge population, and where do they build their houses? In the valley, on the very best fertile ground there is. And we push the farmers out. And so we're pushing them out and sometimes up on the sides of the mountain, on the hillsides. Well, it's not as good as land. And the water, again, doesn't run uphill. And so a lot of people say, well, if we just quit sprinkling and just flood irrigate, everything will go back to normal. No, that doesn't happen.
Where are you getting the water to flood irrigate?
It's just not there. And plus, we are watering, irrigating a couple of million more acres of land. And so there's a bunch of things at play here. But I think the best thing is you get some reservoirs so we can hold that water back. But there's a lot of things going on with water.
Yeah. I had during the legislative session, I had Andrew Mickelson on because he has done a lot of work to figure out, even with a high efficiency watering system, he's figuring out, okay, but what's the actual plant uptake of the water? Like, how much do I need to water, not just to make it appear that the plant is getting enough water, but like, how deep does the water need to go? Like, what's the moisture retention within different types of soils? Like, they're doing absolutely everything they can to stretch every drop of water. And, I was even talking with Representative Simpson about, I think it was him. They're talking about putting essentially like tunnel covers over canals so that you have less evaporative loss. It's like, everybody's thinking of anything they can to stop water from evaporating, stop waste of water. And it's like, you imagine over thousands of miles of canals, or however many miles of canals we have, hot summer days, you probably are losing a lot of water to evaporation. But like, man, the amount of effort going in is substantial. So,
well, they've even looked at putting, you got this huge body of water, a lake. Well, what a wonderful place to put some solar panels.
Like float them?
Yes. And they're doing that in places. You could put those out and float them.
Don't ever want to be near a body of water that has floating electrical generation on top. Hashtag worst idea ever. Like, I'm not going water skiing there. Yeah. That would be a mess. Listen, Kevin, Senator Cook, I don't know what to call you out of session, but I really appreciate you. Thank you for what you're doing. Water is worrisome to me. I'm not a farmer. Again, I'm a domestic well guy, and I do not irrigate more than half an acre. I'm trying to find out if I put a pond on my property, if that counts for like the acreage, because a swimming pool doesn't. Nobody cares about a swimming pool anyway. Yeah. It is a concern though. I come from a state that very much mismanaged water. And as a young person, I remember doing multiple loads of laundry in a washing machine where we couldn't let the water drain. Like I remember being worried because my mom was like, they're going to turn our water off. Like we can't, do whatever. Everybody was like, hey, in the bathroom, everybody had the sign. If it's yellow, let it mellow. If it's brown, flush it down.
I haven't heard that one. That was good.
Yeah. I remember it from my youth, and that's not good. Now, mind you, if that's the state of existence, okay, that's the way it is. But to hear that problems like that are really a result of inaction and mismanagement, and to understand that as an adult now, it's like, wait, we went through that because you guys couldn't get it together over here. That's distressing. And I don't want that for the state. And I don't want that for my home or my kids or your kids.
We need to get ahead of it. I think I've heard people say we are 20 years behind Colorado. Colorado has some serious, serious water problems right now. We don't want to get to where Colorado is. We need to fix our stuff right now. And we can do it. So need your signature. It'll help us to bring to light that we need something done, and we'll take those signatures back to Washington, D.C. So it's keepidahowater.com.
keepidahowater.com. Or send an email, don't tell me, to kcook@senate.id.gov.
Idaho.gov.
God damn it.
Yep.
Senate.idaho.gov. Got it. Thank you for coming on, sir. I appreciate you.
Thank you for what you do. It's great. Love it.